now we are going to get into Cassie here, who is actually a skeleton racer. Explain to us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So skeleton racing, if you didn't know, sometimes we get asked if it's luge, but that's feet first. What I do is a head first sliding sport. So it's on the bobsleigh track. So if you've seen bobsleigh, it's the exact same track. We push off the top and jump on my sled and ride down the whole track head first, steering with the sled with my body.
And you've been pretty successful. You went to the Olympics as an alternate.
I was an alternate for the Olympics, yeah, and I've been doing it since 2009. So it was a bit of a quick turnover heading that way, but still doing it right now, and yeah, plan for the next games.
And keeping on the theme of talking about International Women's Day, we talked a little bit about funding for athletes. Now, in your sport, it's a little bit different because you get funded as a group.
Right. So in terms of discrepancy you're talking about, whether men versus women, for us, yeah, it's different. We really get funded based on performance, which in my opinion is the way to do it. It shouldn't matter what your gender is, but obviously we see there's lots of discrepancy in high level, professional sports. But that being said, when they're talking about salary caps and NHL and everything like that, they don't have the same type of deal for women in terms of we don't even have an NHL for the women. So it's interesting for sure. And why is that? I don't know overall, but it's frustrating because how are we supposed to make money?
It's true. Why is there a reason why we're a little more interested in men's sports than women's sports? I mean, we see it come up during the Olympics, especially when the women's hockey team makes it to the end. We get really excited. But only recently have we found that interest, and with the NHL, why are we more interested in watching men?
I don't know.
The violence. Yeah. I'm just going to say the violence. I mean, a lot of the guys, friends I have, is be like, or even going, everybody cheer when you get that good body check in and everything. Well, maybe, but it's just that excitement. I think for women's sports, I personally love watching women's sports like soccer, hockey, because I find for women's there's more skill involved. Not saying men's are not less skilled. It's a lot more kind of like a mental game where okay, how am I going to get these passes through to make that goal and such. While for men, it's all about being fast paced, doing those fast breaks, that body check, making those really fancy plays.
I was going to say for sliding sports, it's interesting. The four-man bobsleigh, which now thankfully also includes some female pilots, thanks to Kaylee Humphries and Alana Myers from the U.S. And so we have that ability to get in there, and she pushed for that. But my point is, when usually they have men and women's skeleton the first couple days, and a lot of times there will be more people out for men's skeleton, but either way we maybe have 300 people there. But when we get down to, they always put four-man bob, or now four-person bob, at the end of the event, because that is the big event. And so when it was all men, it was curious, and that's when everyone would show up, and so we'd have no fans for the most of the time, and then everyone shows up at the end. Why is that? Why is it? And is it because it's more interesting to watch four men jump into a sled than it is to see me fly head first down? I don't think so, but that had been the pattern up to this point. So certainly we try to get more people out, but it seems difficult.
But in skeleton, are the race times different for men and female, or are they very similar?
Well, it all has to do with the push start. So the men in general have that physicality, of the gender difference in general of being faster. So that push time gets faster, and therefore the down times are faster, usually a couple seconds, but it's all relative, right? You push faster, you go faster down. So
it's kind of funny because when I think of skeleton, we were all talking about this a little bit earlier, they wear the full suits and the helmet. So at the end of the day, it's hard to tell. Once you're going down the hill, it's
just all of our backs, backs for sure. So I mean, it's a very intuitive sport, and I find that the way that women think in general and are fast-paced, constantly doing something in our brains, it really lends itself to skeleton, and that was one of the things that for me worked out really well, because you got on the sled and you're already thinking a million things. You might as well add 140 kilometers an hour because it's like thinking normal paced anyways. So yeah, for us I'd love to see more women get into sports like this, just extreme sports, and I think it's turning that way, but ultimately it's still having those conversations with little girls that might be interested in it, that it's not just a boys game, it's the possibility of anything, and you can get into it and be just as successful as any of the men.
We are going to go. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. We love the conversations that we're having here this morning. But